Thanks so much, Gabby. I appreciate it. And we will call to order this 5 p.m. regular meeting of the Housing Authority of the County of Monterey, Monday, November 28th, 2022. Could I please have a roll call?
Chair Wizard.
Let me unmute Commissioner Wizard.
Here.
Commissioner Booter.
Here.
Commissioner Healy.
Present.
Commissioner Ballesteros.
Present.
Commissioner Gama.
Present.
And Commissioner Goodwin.
Present.
Thank you so much. We, in fact, have a quorum. Exciting. Vice Chair Booter, would you please lead us in the pledge if you're able?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. We will now move to public comment. Any members of the public wishing to comment, address the board on matters not on the agenda this evening, but still within the jurisdiction of the Housing Authority of the County of Monterey are welcome to do so for a period of up to 3 minutes. If you feel so inclined, please state your name so we can keep track of that in the minutes in case anybody has any follow-up questions. Gabby, is there anybody on the phone or anybody that you see with their hand up in the Zoom?
I do not.
Okay, we'll leave that open for just a second in case someone is, on their phone or otherwise looking for the button. But as we've done in past meetings, we will leave that the public comment period open to a member of the public who joins us a few minutes late. But for the sake of efficiency, we will move to item 4, our presentation for Irene Banuelos for her many years of service to the Housing Authority.
I am pleased to award this 15 years of service certificate to Irene, and we congratulate her. I see she's actually with us at the meeting. Irene, congratulations and thank you for your service.
Thank you so much, Irene. If you have anything you'd like to share, by all means, please take it away.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm happy to be coming back from a wrongful termination, and I look forward to another 15 years with the Housing Authority.
Well, thank you very much for your service, and we're glad for you to continue providing the good work to support the residents of Monterey County.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Item 5 on our agenda, the consent agenda, is Resolution 3076 in support of Assembly Bill 361 to continue our remote teleconference options. Tori, anything of note here?
It is the same resolution you've been approving for some time now.
Wonderful. Any questions from commissioners? Any questions from members of the public?
I don't see any.
Likewise, any comments from commissioners? Any motions from commissioners?
I move to approve the resolution.
I will second the motion.
Phenomenal. Vice Chair Booter has moved and Commissioner Healy has seconded the motion to approve item 5A on the consent agenda, resolution 3076 regarding Assembly Bill 361. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Wizard.
Aye.
Commissioner Booter.
Yes.
Commissioner Healy.
Yes.
Commissioner Ballesteros.
Yes.
Commissioner Gama.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodwin.
Yes.
Outstanding. With unanimity, we have passed that motion. And so we will now move to item 6, the reports of committees. Commissioner Ballesteros, any reports?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, everything that we did have our personnel committee meeting, and everything that was on the agenda is on this agenda as new business.
Fantastic. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
report.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gama, do you have any report from the Finance and Development Committee?
Yes, so we did meet and everything is on the agenda.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. For my colleagues at the Housing Authority, I did attend the Michi and Michi board meeting. I went in person to their new office, which is not far from the county government building and the Seaside Salinas Police Department. And we talked about a potential bylaws change, and it turned out that it wasn't ripe to be heard. They're considering adding a new board member to replace the gentleman who recently came off their board. His name escapes me, but it turned out that the bylaws are written in such ways for her that potential new board member to not be eligible. So it appears as though they're going to change the bylaws and then present them to the board to vote, just so that the board has some full context going into what Michi might do at their next meeting. It appears as though the Housing Authority will be written out of the Michi bylaws, and they will delete the clause where two HACM appointees are part of their board, and instead replace us with members of the public or other interested parties. If that happens, we would lose our administrative relationship with them, but we would still maintain our current business relationship with them for some time, as they've indicated that they would like to separate and go their own separate ways. I guess that's a fair place to stop. I would be happy. It's not really agendized as a discussion, but if there was a clarifying question, if I didn't provide enough detail, I'm happy to expand, but I don't want to get into the weeds if that was sufficient for the rest of the board. Okay, and you can always call or email me if you need any specifics or anything. And of course, I would be happy to respond to any member of the public who had any follow-up questions about what I discussed. Next, we'll move to item 7, the report of the secretary. Tori, do you have your executive report?
I do. So it's been a busy November. Had a couple of meetings with the coalition and the leadership council. And I have germinated and pursued creating a landlord damage mitigation fund with various partners. And we had a very good meeting with the county and the coalition and the United Way and several other partners. Apparently, this is an idea that the coalition had been having for some time. And I was just pushing it as like, hey, is this something that we could get off the ground sooner rather than later? And the idea really is that you would have some fund that could be used either to supplement or in place of security deposits. So, if we had a fund and pick a number of 100,000 or 200,000, we could tell landlords, hey, we will cover damage, up to $10,000 that's documented appropriately with a pre-inspection and a post-inspection. And then you don't need to charge a security deposit, or you don't need to charge as high of a security deposit for either the voucher holders in general or for homeless voucher holders. And I would say there's a great amount of interest in the community. And that's something that I will be handing off to Zulika. But the partners are running with the idea. And so I think that we will be able to create a fund, whether it is housed at the Housing Authority or it's housed somewhere else, I think it will be helpful to the community to open up access for voucher holders or homeless voucher holders. I also participated in a mediation with SEIU 521 on another employee who had been terminated. We are hopeful that we have a settlement in principle, but it has not yet been finalized. And I had a meeting again with a number of different community partners about possible funding solutions for the future of Pueblo Del Mar. As you know, Pueblo Del Mar did not receive continuum of care funding in the latest cycle, which means that that funding runs out approximately June of 23. So we are searching for new ways to fund that property. And then finally, myself and most all of the senior staff attended some demonstrations with some new technology from Yardi that could increase the efficiency of the agency. And we are continuing to evaluate that for a possible purchase and implementation. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Tori. Any questions from commissioners? Okay, I would just share that I like the sound of that that fund you described, and I think that would certainly, anecdotally, of course, we'd have to review the evidence after we trialed it, but I think anecdotally it presents an opportunity to increase the the stock of rentals that landlords are willing to rent to folks if there's some surety around repairs for damage to the property. So whatever we can do to continue growing the number of units that are available to our clientele is a good effort. So thank you very much for your report, Tori.
Thank you.
We'll move now to item 8A, unfinished business, a discussion on our project-based vouchers.
So let me start at the top. So the Housing Authority gets a set number of vouchers, and then we are allowed to convert some of those vouchers. And so they're generally known as mobile vouchers. We can convert some of those vouchers to project-based vouchers, and then they no longer are issued directly to a client. They are attached to a property. And there are a number of reasons to do this. The biggest one in the context for Monterey is it helps make deals possible and cash flow when they wouldn't otherwise. We did a bunch of work to figure out exactly where are we in terms of the cap. And there are two pieces of the cap that you need to be aware of. One is the general cap, where we can use 20% of our authorized voucher limits to project base. And then recently, Congress authorized an additional 10% for certain types of project-based assistance, generally related to the homeless. And so we went through and really tried to figure out exactly where we were at. And where we are at is we have 919 project-based voucher units that are in service or already been approved. And so that leaves us with a total of 229 units that could be project-based for any population, and an additional 248 units under the special 10% cap allowance. And the reason I'm bringing this to the board is the staff and myself, we really need guidance. So what happens is Maria and I are constantly being called by developers wanting us to give them project-based vouchers. And we don't have a strong set of criteria for how we make that decision. And in my mind, it really felt appropriate to have a discussion with the board. Currently, we haven't issued any RFPs, which is the normal way that you would start the process. And in the RFP, we can put pretty much any criteria that we want in the RFP. The other thing to note is we don't have to issue an RFP if we are issuing the project-based vouchers to a property that the Housing Authority is a partner in. And when you look at this list, which I think might be 1 or 2 more pages down, when you look at this list of the deals that have project-based vouchers in them, in the early years, pretty much every property was a HDC or Michi property. And we made a lot of deals possible by putting project-based vouchers into our partners' properties. And we, generally speaking, are getting something in return. Lately, the people that have been coming to us for project-based vouchers just want project-based vouchers, and we don't get anything in return other than serving more people in a project-based setting. And so I think, I'm happy to talk about this a lot more, but I thought it would be helpful if we could have a conversation. And I think the main decision that needs to be made, or the guidance that we are looking for, is how many of the 229 any eligible population vouchers should be saved for HACM related properties, and how aggressively should we be trying to project-based units with other people, and are there certain cases where it makes sense, for instance, permanent supportive housing, for us to say, yes, we want to support permanent supportive housing projects with project-based vouchers, even if we're not a part of the partnership and even if we aren't seeing something in return. So those are kind of the high-level questions that I was hoping to have a discussion about.
Are there any questions from commissioners?
Yeah, Tori, I had a
Yeah.
question about just the degree to which the things recycle. I guess what's our typical contract length, HAP length on these things, and then
So I'd say the typical contract length is 20 years, which is the maximum. And sometimes it's 20 years with a 10-year extension. And many of the properties, when they would get to the end of that 20 years, they would be coming back and they'd be looking for future subsidy.
I guess like you mentioned, I think you mentioned Tynan in the memo,
Yep.
which was a pretty somewhat recent. Maybe was it 10 years? I don't know, but I guess the question I had was, will that deal work and cash flow without vouchers? I'm just trying to get a sense from you as to, is it realistic to think that any of these things sort of come back into the pipeline or not really?
So tie-in could come back into the pipeline. Salinas Gateway could come back. I don't see Rippling River coming back. So Tynan, it looks like that was more of a 10-year contract. And the reason that they would do a 10-year contract is it's a tax credit deal. And in the beginning, pre-stabilization, they want a guaranteed base of clients. And then once the property is up and running, a number of the properties that have project-based vouchers also attract regular voucher holders, and they're known as a place that would be affordable and accepts vouchers. So a place like Tynan, it may no longer be attractive that they would need project-based vouchers. They might still like them. And depending on the financing, if a developer has a project-based voucher, they can take that to the bank and that will help with financing.
Yeah. That's helpful. I mean, I guess the related question is like, is there a way to do, if the goal is to spur development, you'd have to help me think through the mechanics here, but is there a way to do shorter terms where we help people get that like kind of initial loan to, construct the property? Like at 10 years, do you still, I mean, do we still need that same amount of debt, or, like at the end of a tax credit period, or could somebody come back in with more equity? Like how does that work?
I think on a family deal, it's possible to phase them out. On an elderly or a special population deal, it's less likely that you could phase it out.
Okay.
Because they need every single one of those units to be a voucher holder.
Kevin, did you have any questions? I thought I saw that you were unmuted.
Yeah, you know what, John, I was going to ask Tori, kind of if there's any potential risks that we should be aware of. It seems like kind of the way Tori's describing it, kind of an open slate and a real opportunity, but I wonder if there's any sort of cautions or potential landmines in moving forward in whichever direction we decide to go.
So I think the risk is that you hit the cap, and once you hit the cap, you're done, and you can't do any more of these. And so it's about being thoughtful of if there is a strategy and how to be strategic with this valuable resource before it's used up. And from a staff perspective, I mean, in my year, I probably have talked to 5 or 6 different entities that all wanted project-based vouchers, and I would guess that Maria has talked to at least that many. And from talking with, it might have been the county or it might have been somebody else, they're talking about the number of home key units could eat up all of these units. If you said everybody who has a home key gets a unit, that would be, you'd be at your 30%. And then if you wanted it to be a tool and a helpful tool for HACM and HDC to do their own development, then it would be gone.
Chair, was there, can I say something?
Absolutely. Please go right ahead.
Okay, Tori, I read all this information not once, but twice. And I don't know if some other commissioners feel the same way I do, but some of it, I understand it, and some of it I don't. So how is it that we can work to assist in getting whatever needs to be done? And I like the question that Commissioner Haley asked, because then it helps me to learn, and because I don't have it all down packed. But how is it that we can assist in this process?
So I really think that the big question is, of the 229 general project-based voucher eligibility units, how many do you want to save for HDC and the Housing Authority? Because when you look at what HDC and what Michi have done, it's almost impossible to do a tax credit deal without project-based vouchers unless you get a lot of extra money. And so, if the Housing Authority has plans to build 230 units or more in the next 10 years, then I would say you would want to keep those units for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel like, hey, we just want development now wherever we can get it, then we could support new development. But, we get requests, we have a request now from an existing project-based voucher holder who wants more project-based vouchers at an existing development. So that's not creating new development, that's just further subsidizing their current pool. We have a request from a city that built a affordable nursing home, and they had set aside 2 units for very low income people, and they'd like to project-based vouchers there, which would be allowed. And I think that's a great idea, but we don't have any guidance. And I felt uncomfortable just making this decision as an interim.
I guess the other sort of like philosophical question is, on the one end of the scale, you can incentivize development. On the other end of the scale, you're kind of locking a family into a specific property where, we just passed some pretty, generous voucher subsidies that they could use in a lot of different locations. And so the question is, philosophically, like if the point of the voucher program is to give people housing choice where they can use it kind of wherever they want, do you want to divert people into a subset of, hey, here are these, 2, 3, 4, 5 properties that, that you
Yeah, and the families would have choice after they stayed at the project-based voucher property for a year.
Maria, how many people have exercised that in the past couple of years?
We do have families, especially one development we do. After the 1 year, they do request a voucher to move out. So how many? I mean, I would have to run a report, but we do have families. I mean, I could say in a year, probably an average from 10 to 15, depending, because we do have people that want to rent. A lot of the families that we get that are under the project base, they want to rent a home. So, but it's really hard for them to even find a home. But they do exercise the portability once they're out, in the project base, they want to move out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. This is the project base also is like the back door to get their housing choice voucher. Because like Tori mentioned, they do accept the project base. They need to stay there for 1 year. And then after the year, they can request a regular housing choice voucher.
I guess my point is like 10 or 15 people a year out of almost 1,000 is a pretty small number.
It is. A lot of families do stay in project base because they know that the economy, and especially trying to find a unit here, is extremely difficult. But I could kind of run a report and kind of give you an average, and I could send you an email.
Yeah, no, that's helpful, Maria. I just wanted to be clear that like most people are unfamiliar with that concept and, are not.
And the transition costs of security deposit or first and last month, it's beyond a lot of people. So
yeah,
you are correct that project basing reduces mobility.
I mean, it feels to me like the focus here should be a priority. If we're going to do project-based vouchers, it should be on supportive housing, right? And it does feel like, if we were going to project base anything else, we would want to probably reserve it for, an HDC development. But I don't know. I just with the generosity of the subsidies we have now, it just feels I would have a tough time philosophically just shoehorning people into particular properties when they have a much broader choice on their own in a family type development. But that's a personal philosophical point.
Yeah, like Tori mentioned, I mean, as of today, I had a meeting with another partner agency that is requesting PBBs, but is an existing site, which they already have PBB. So what they're wanting is to do the whole, they want, I believe it's 90 units, they want PBBs. So they've been allocated 53 PBBs, but now they want a project based more on an existing.
Well, that's the other thing that I meant to mention was it feels like that's a great example of we should be using these things to incentivize development. Like really the reason for us to do project-based vouchers is to incentivize development, right? And to make a development deal possible. So that seems like a deal where it's like pretty clear that we shouldn't do that deal, right? So as a criterion in evaluating requests, it seems like that should be a paramount criterion. Like, will it incentivize net new development?
Yeah. Like we have mentioned, Tori gets a lot of phone calls. I get a lot of phone calls with new developers requesting when are we going to put in RFPs? And, that is the discussion that we need to know what direction or what we need to do, whether we do an RFP for new construction or for an existing. And so from that, when we put the RFP, then we, there's a score sheet that we have to go down and then we review to see if they're eligible for those awards. And then we give those the PBBs out there. But
and I think a part of the question for the commissioners is the pace. So we have 248 units that could be allocated under the 10% PSH exemption. The last deal that we did was a Project Home Key with 85 units. So that 248 could go very quickly if we're doing them 85 at a time or 100 at a time. So that's kind of another question of, should we be doing 100% of a building if it's PSH, or should we be doing a lower amount? Should we be trying to use these vouchers project-based as quickly as possible, create more development? Or should we be saying, hey, we're only going to do, 75 a year over the next several years?
Well, Tori, so like a second criterion could potentially be that we want a lower percentage of the property to be project-based vouchers. First of all, just for like a diversification perspective, sociologically. And then second of all, we're looking for a deal that's just on the cusp of working. And if we provide some level of project-based voucher support, all of a sudden it becomes a deal that works. So if we want to incentivize like the maximum amount of new development, it feels like having a lower percentage of the units as sort of a cap in any given property, instead of just creating one new property, maybe we could help spur the development of 3 new properties, right? And we just wait until a developer comes along that has a pro forma where it actually works. Now, we actually probably need to do some homework on our end to understand, like, in that sources and uses, like, what is the magic number? And Carolina can probably tell us, right? Like, what is the magic number that's going to make that deal work? And maybe it just means that the city has to contribute some land or like whatever, but we could probably make like 3 deals work if we sort of stretched the vouchers a little bit more. So I would advocate for that.
Commissioners Goodwin or Gama, do you have any comments you'd like to share at this point?
I have a question.
Please.
Are the vouchers distributed throughout the Monterey County, not just in Salinas or the lower income areas?
Yeah, so the list has a higher concentration in Salinas, but Soledad, Monterey, Gonzales, Marina, Carmel Valley, Pacific Grove, Greenfield. So the Seaside. So we've got them kind of
Spread out.
spread around.
Okay. 'Cause,
That's great. Great question.
because people that live on the peninsula, I'm sure are already aware that how high the rents are here. And to be able to get a voucher is a godsend. If you can find a landlord that'll take it. I'm just curious. Thank you.
Anything, Commissioner Gama, for this part of the discussion?
The only thing I'd like to add is I also agree that we shouldn't 100% have the vouchers in on one site. I like that idea of that to have a diverse population of tenants. What my brain is doing right now is just the way we've been trying to, do we give any landlords incentives? Because I know we do for project-based. No, not, this is project-based, sorry. The housing voucher.
For EHV, we have incentives. The regular voucher program, I believe there had been incentives, but that was earlier in the pandemic, and that money ran out. So there aren't any regular incentives. From a landlord perspective, the project-based voucher comes with the incentive of they're guaranteed that they'll have subsidy if they can find somebody who wants to take the unit. And they are allowed vacancy payments if they release quickly. And that's something that the regular voucher program doesn't have.
Okay. Yeah, that was it for me. I was just wondering that as well.
Okay. Well, I think this has been really good discussion up to this point. I agree with pretty much across the board what everyone has been talking about, with sort of the virtue of what we're trying to achieve and how we can best go about it, and not putting all our eggs in one basket, but as Hans mentioned, trying to be that last push for projects that would otherwise be on the bubble or not get built. And I have to agree wholeheartedly with the idea, the concept of net new units. I mean, I appreciate that it is a worthwhile pursuit to ensure that units that are currently affordable remain that way. But we do not have a static number of people who need housing, and we have not created enough homes to support everybody who needs housing. There are still people on wait lists. There are still people who need help. And if we're not creating new homes, we're never going to help them. So I appreciate that there are competing priorities, and it's not like, do I pay the rent or do I go see a movie? It's, do I pay the rent or do I eat? Both of them are important, and we can't just put one to the side like it's not a big deal. So I think, for me, this leads to a bigger discussion where we follow a little bit more structured approach and less informal discussion, but more sort of decision tree where we discuss and make affirmative choices about, do we want to allocate a certain number of units over a certain number of years, or rather make them available over a certain number of years? Do we want to have a hard ceiling? Do we want to pursue get you over the top or get you past the finish line approach? Or do we want to pursue a flat number available to whatever project, sort of having a criteria sheet, a checklist for which projects we prefer, as opposed to, do you need some PVV, yes or no? But sort of tailoring that a little bit more to what our goals are. Is there a possibility to, hearing some of the other commissioners, to try to localize this? Do we create a scoring rubric where a project in an area with a high median income or with few units already receives extra points compared to a place that already has a glut of units or subsidy in order to create that sociological diversity. You know, all of these things are their own discussions in sort of component parts of this larger discussion around the policy area. And I don't know that we necessarily have the right mental preparation and you know, technical preparation to have that larger discussion tonight. And maybe it's a special meeting where we have just this one thing on the agenda, and can really get into a, you know, an hour or two long conversation on this one topic. But I think that it was absolutely the right call, Tori, for you to bring this to the board for us to chew on this a little bit and figure out kind of what direction we wanted to face before we started marching. And I think with that, I would open it up for public comment to hear some, if there's any public comment to help us shape our thoughts. I don't see anyone in the participant list. Gabby, do you have anybody on the line?
I do not.
Okay. You know, I appreciate, I'll just put a pin in public comment in case somebody comes in and wants to say something. I appreciate that, you know, if you get hurt and you go to the doctor, if you ask the doctor if you need surgery, then the answer is yes. If you go to the physical therapist, yes. If you need PT, the answer is yes. So, you know, if we solicit input from our nonprofit developer partners, the answer is going to be make them all available for PVV. And if we ask our friends in the services sector, like community human services or community homeless solutions, you know, should we provide more subsidies to supportive housing? Then the answer is yes. So, you know, it's going to be their comments and perspectives are valuable, and also they're naturally biased to support the thing that they do. You know, if we ask somebody who's on the waiting list for a voucher if we should create new units, the answer is going to be yes. If we ask somebody who's in an affordable housing development where the subsidy is going to expire, if we should re-up with PVVs to keep those units affordable, the answer is yes. So the public comment is valuable, and also we as commissioners have to be able to, you know, sort of synthesize whatever public comment we might get with sort of our understanding of how the housing authority works and what our specific authorities, perspectives, and priorities are. So, you know, what my preference is that we have a special meeting at some point in the not too distant future, maybe with our new executive director, after she's had a little bit of time to get her feet planted on the ground and sort of get brought up to speed on this conversation, to talk about what we might do. But that's my preference, you know, and there's 5 other folks in the room who get a vote. So I see Vice Chair Booter, you've got a comment. You want to just share it audibly and you know, we can move on from there.
No, I guess my question was, do we want to direct staff to kind of pause, you know, the issuance of new PVE contracts until we have that more robust discussion? And I guess, Tori, what's the timeline on some of these renewals?
Yeah, so we have paused the last project that AHAP was entered into had become embroiled with some HUD process. HUD is going to be giving HACM some PBV technical assistance training at some point. They are waiting kind of for the final approval from headquarters before they deploy the contractor. So we are currently paused, and I think that it makes sense to stay paused for right now. But it is, I think it will be helpful for staff if there is a clear process, so that at some point we're able to kind of tell developers, yes, this is what the plan is. You know, we'll be issuing 2 RFPs a year. And everybody will know when we issue them. But for now, we're paused.
Okay. Yeah, I think the pause is appropriate given that we're in the midst of working with HUD on some technical assistance to ensure that our processes are, that we are drawing within the lines, coloring within the lines, and that we are maximizing the public benefit for this public subsidy is funded by public dollars. So that's good for me to hear, but I'd like to get some feedback from the other commissioners on whether this is something that you feel that we don't need to unpause, and that you just think it's better for us to hold on to those for our own development in the future, and we don't need to have another discussion. Or if you think that this is a pressing matter and we need to get that TA out of the technical assistance out of the way and immediately design a set of criteria and a scoring rubric to judge and potentially award these vouchers at some particular speed or number of vouchers per year, or something in the middle. Not all at once, though. All right, well, in the absence of any feedback, I'll just go with my plan on waiting for our new executive director to arrive, asking Tori to brief her on this discussion and have her think about it a little bit, and then agendize a special meeting at some point for us to have that larger discussion. And the outcome could very well be of that special meeting, pause indefinitely, or no, actually, we've thought about it now, let's ramp this up and kick it into turbo. Whatever the will of the board is absolutely fine. I just want to make sure that we're all given an opportunity to participate and share, what we think is the best for the housing authority and our clients. So without any objections, Tori, do you have any questions about that, the will of the board so far?
Nope, I think I've got some direction.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the thoughtful questions and comments from the commissioners. I think it's a critically important question and policy for us to really firmly adhere to and have some guidance on, because it could make or break a development that we really want to see happen, or if left managed suboptimally, could lead us to miss opportunities that we otherwise wish we had taken. So this is important stuff, and when you told your supervisor that you agreed to be a member of this board, this was the really meaty stuff that really touches tens of thousands of people's lives. So I appreciate the willingness to continue having that deeper conversation. So now we will move to item 9A, new business, resolution 3077, to consider adding a new local preference to the administrative plan. That's also Tori, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so you will remember just last month, we changed the admin plan and the local preferences. And one of the things that was discussed at that time was creating a set-aside preference for families with children. And so this memo outlines one version of what that could look like. And the reason that it was discussed is that there has been a growing body of literature and research that has really shown that where kids grow up matters to their future outcomes. And some of the research it's really startling. Like they're increasing their income by their mid-20s by 31% versus their peers, with increased marriage rates and increased college attendance, decreases in interactions with the justice system. And so it makes a difference where people live. And Monterey County has some amazing neighborhoods and cities and towns that we don't have many voucher holders in. And with the new payment standards, there is a chance that people could actually explore some of those areas. HUD realized that this literature was compelling, and Congress directed them to create a demonstration program. And that program has a preference for a family with at least one child age 13 or below and living in a census tract with 30% or greater poverty, is a mandatory preference for those people. So we were mirroring our preference on that. And it would be easy to verify the age of a child and the census tract of poverty rate. I believe there are 9 census tracts in Monterey County that have 30% or greater poverty. And the preference would work the same way as the homeless set-aside preference. 1 out of every 10 vouchers would go to somebody in this preference category. And like the homeless preference, we would start this preference on 4/25/23. And at a rate of 1 out of every 10, we're thinking somewhere in the neighborhood of around 20 families would get this preference a year. But I think that it has the potential to have remarkable impact, to basically choose families that are living in a high poverty area, and give them a voucher and move them to the head of the line. And these are the households that in the past several years, with the way that the old preference system had been working, were not getting a preference at all. So happy to answer questions.
Thanks very much for the report. Any initial questions for Tori? All right, any members of the public wishing to share their thoughts on this resolution? I don't see anybody in the participant list. Gabby, anybody on the phone?
No.
Okay, we will then bring it back for commissioner comments. Any thoughts you'd like to share on this particular item?
I was just going to say, this is kind of my day job, and happenstance is that I happen to do it in Dallas, Texas. And, you know, we work with families that have vouchers and help them get access to, you know, high opportunity neighborhoods. And, you know, so I've seen it play out in real people's lives. And, you know, it is a dramatic impact. And, you know, obviously this is we're talking about something pretty small, you know, 20 families a year, but, you know, I think it could have a huge impact on, you know, 40 or 50 kids a year. And the research is incredibly strong. It's kind of gold standard research, randomized controlled trials. If you haven't, you know, seen that research before, you know, it's pretty compelling stuff. So I'm excited that we're, you know, following the science on it. So.
Yeah, good comments, Vice Chair Buder. I would agree. I think it is really compelling is sort of an understatement to see, you know, what that research bears out and the opportunities that young folks are able to realize as they grow, which is sort of the goal, right? I mean, that people would move up and move out and you know, create new opportunities for their families, and that we would all prosper together. So, Commissioner Goodwin, I see you are unmuted. Did you have something to share?
Yeah, I just wanted to agree with Commissioner Buder. I think it is a very compelling study, and it merits you know, the outcome of you know, what the families are able to achieve, being in a positive you know, growing atmosphere. You know, as opposed to, you know, some of the negative neighborhoods that have, you know, been compiled, unfortunately. But I agree with you 100%. I think where a child grows has a lot to do with the outcome of their life. And, you know, and it even changes the attitudes of their parents. You know, it's how they raise them. So anyway, but thank you for those findings, Tori. I think that was most valuable information. Thank you.
And thank you, Commissioner Goodwin. Any other comments? I see Commissioner Ballesteros.
Yes, so my input is, I live in an area where the poverty is very low. It's below poverty level. But to see the students all the way from elementary to high school, and they already had the desire to go to college. And I think that this will assist them to move out of the boundaries or the structure where they can step out of the mentality. And I see students challenging themselves to rise above. And I even seen it in my own family, seeing my granddaughter staying in the dorm in Sacramento, at Sacramento State, and her achieving what she wants to do. So me being a single parent, and I had to juggle different things to go back to school and all that, but to see the culture in the area where I live, there's families that work in the ag lands, in agriculture, and their children are challenged. They want to, join NASA. They want to be, some of them want to be teachers, some of them want to be scientists. And I think that this will push them, help these families, the parents, to allow their children to blossom. And to see these students challenge themselves to move in that arena, to me, it's like amazing. So that's my input.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from commissioners or a motion?
If there's no other comments, I would move to approve the resolution.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody desiring to second the motion?
I'll second it.
It's been properly moved by Vice Chair Booter and seconded by Commissioner Goodwin to adopt item 9A, resolution 3077, to add a new local preference to our administrative plan. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Wizard,
Aye.
Commissioner Booter,
Yes.
Commissioner Healy,
Yes.
Commissioner Ballesteros,
Yes.
Commissioner Gama,
Yes.
and Commissioner Goodwin.
Yes.
All right. Well, it passes unanimously, and we'll move now to our last business item, number 9B, resolution 3078, regarding utility allowances from January 2023 through December of 2024. Tori.
So the Housing Authority is required to conduct an annual review and analysis of our utility allowances based on the energy rates. And if there is more than a 10% change, we are required to implement new utility allowances. And we used UA Pro to conduct this review and analysis. And they determined that there has been a change of more than 10%, which shouldn't be a surprise to anybody who pays utility bills, that the utilities are going up. And so we have taken their recommendation and attached it with the new utility allowances. They are broken up by different types of units and sizes. So apartments and townhomes, single family homes, mid-rise, high-rise, and high efficiency are all different categories. But in general, the utility allowances have gone up. What this means for the tenants is good news because it decreases their tenant portion, which means that they have more money in their pocket to be able to pay those rising utility bills.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation. Any questions for the executive director? I just have one brief question, which is what is the mechanism for us to reevaluate this if we find ourselves in the same boat a year from now, about halfway through this plan, saying, oh, geez, rates have gone up even more, and it would be appropriate to have another adjustment?
So I mean, if you as a payer of utilities yourself are going, whoa, my bill just went through the roof, you could ask staff to conduct the survey early. And there's a cost to that, but it's not required that it is done sooner than December 31st of 2024, but it is certainly something that can be done earlier.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions before we go to public comment?
I had a question.
ahead.
Those numbers in the boxes, are those dollars?
Yes.
Is that the allowance? Okay,
Yeah, that's the monthly allowance.
okay, just checking. Thank you.
All right. Any members of the public wishing to comment on this agenda item number 9B regarding utility allowances, please raise your hand or make yourself known. Gabby, anybody on the line?
No.
Okay, and I don't see anybody in the participant list wishing to make a comment. So we'll bring it back to the board. Any final comments or motions?
I make a motion to approve resolution 3078, the utility allowance from January 2023 to December 2024.
I'll second
Thank
that
you.
motion.
All right, it's been properly moved by Commissioner Ballesteros and seconded by Commissioner Healy to approve item 9B, resolution 3078 on utility allowances through December of 2024. A roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Wizard,
Aye.
Commissioner Booter,
Yes.
Commissioner Healy,
Yes.
Commissioner Ballesteros,
Yes,
Commissioner Gama,
Yes,
Commissioner Goodwin.
Yes,
Motion
All right.
carries.
Thank you very much, Tori. It's passed unanimously, and we have concluded the business items for our agenda this evening, and we'll now move into our informational reports, starting with that from Human Resources, number 10A.
James, are you with us?
Good evening, Lord and everyone on. Nothing to report for this month of November. We're still holding on. I am focusing on leadership training for management to kind of promote inclusion and productivity throughout the agency. No recent changes though as of right now. We did hire a property management specialist recently for the property management for one Parkside. And we are open positions for caretakers, which we're interviewing this week on Wednesday. Other than that, though, we are still moving forward.
Very good. Thank you so much for the report. Next is 10B, Finance.
Kim, are you on?
Yes, I'm on. Hello, everybody. There's not really much to add to our report except for to let you know that we have started the June 2020 audit for HACM, and we're working on the open items for that. That is pretty much our priority on that. And also I wanted to mention on the balance sheet items that under unrestricted cash, that isn't really an accurate amount because a lot of those, a lot of things included in there are operating accounts for properties and not for just, unrestricted. It's
Not
restricted.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
Not truly unrestricted.
Yeah, not truly unrestricted because it's restricted to the property itself. But I just wanted to let you know that we have around 1 million in HACM unrestricted cash and 2 million for HDC, and that could be accessed if we needed it. Does anyone have any questions?
I just had a quick question. Are we still on track to, I think it's the Salinas family RAD is still in process, it looks like. Are we still on track to finish all the RAD audit stuff by the end of the year?
As far as I know, I had a meeting last week with property management and they said they were on track. In fact, they were almost finished with Salinas Family Rad, and we're currently working on the East Salinas, which is the last one. We will be starting to do the data entry for that this week.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for the report, and Commissioner, for your follow-up questions. I appreciate it. We'll move now to item 10C, the Development and Property Management Report.
Okay. Hi, everybody. The only thing I'd like to add or remind everyone, we do have our grand opening for One Parkside that's been moved to January 19th. Hopefully everyone can make it out in January for that celebration. We've been working with property management staff. They've been working on lease up. We've got pretty much one entire building leased up. They've got some additional move-ins for building C. We got our certificate of occupancy a week and a half ago, and we did HQS inspections last week. So move-ins are scheduled for tomorrow. So everything's going well with that. We've got over at Tynan, a few, the modernization job is pretty much 95% complete. There's a few items that are still on back order, some doors that have not come in yet. So the job's not 100% done, but very, very close. I don't recall if I told the board yet already, but I did get notice from our commercial tenant. So I'm out looking for another tenant to rent that big 5,000 square foot space that our bakery tenant is not going to renew their lease. We've had a few people come out and look at it, and I've had some conversations with city staff as well. So they're helping me out, and hopefully we can find someone that'll take it over so that, or start a new lease so that the space doesn't sit empty for too long. We've had several site visits from our investors at a lot of our properties. We had CCRC out today. We had Alliant come out last week just before the holidays. So they've been coming out since they weren't able to come out and visit during COVID. And then the metals job that was happening at Haciendas 1 and 2 has, we've completed the balcony repair, and we've got the community center repair work that's going to start as soon as we get the bids in. We've got a scope of work that was finalized with our architect and engineer, and we're just waiting on some bids to come in. And I think that's all the large items we had.
And then I'll speak for Jose, who's out sick. On the property management side, I think the big push this past month has been leasing up One Parkside. There were 39 units or 40 units. 31 of them have been leased up in Building B. And 6 we're waiting approval from the voucher department on 6 remaining units, and then 3 transfers. So all 40 units are accounted for, and we're in good shape on those. And then we've been coordinating these CCRC inspections that happened today and will happen in the rest of the week. And I think that's the big news there. I think the other update is the Zumwalt work has been progressing, and they've been making good headway on making those repairs. And that concludes our report.
Sorry, I just want, can I say something?
Please, go ahead.
Okay. You know what, Tori, what was brought to my attention, but I don't want to be the one, I don't want to pinpoint any property, but I just wanted to suggest any of the maintenance workers, when they go on the properties to whatever work they're doing, to remember that the clients, some of them could be ill, some of them could have, a variety of physical disabilities, and sometimes, their tone may not be like very nice or might be unfriendly, but for the workers to remember not to take it personal.
Yeah, if you could follow up with me in either an email or a call, I'd love to hear more details.
Okay, I just wanted to just ask that, the workers just, be more friendlier to the clients. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. That's good feedback. That doesn't always make its way back to the office, so I appreciate you bringing that up.
Okay.
Hans, I see you're unmuted. Do you have anything?
I just had a quick question, Carolina, on the commercial space on Tynan. Are you guys going to engage a broker on that?
We can, and we haven't.
Yeah, just to get like more.
I looked into that, a couple of years ago. It was very expensive. I can see what they're charging nowadays. I mean, the space, maybe now since we've got the bakery, but let me see. I've got somebody's coming in actually tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Once I speak to them, I mean, if I can get somebody in, another business in with the space that the bakery has, the only spot that's still empty is about 1,500 square feet, which, during the pandemic has been hard to lease up. But yeah, I may need to reach out to a commercial broker. I mean, this isn't our specialty. I've been doing it on the side.
Yeah,
in between
as
everything
a side
else.
hustle. As a side hustle, it's tough. I would just say, like, it's kind of like anything, right? Like the more visibility you get, like
Absolutely.
it's
No,
like when you're
I'll
finding
reach out.
renters, right? And you get it out there to 1 million people, and all of a sudden the rent.
I know
comes,
we had it. I know we had an advertisement out there for a long time, and
yeah.
But you're right. The broker, we haven't had a broker for years, but I'll look into that definitely.
Just a thought. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. The last information item is 10D, the housing programs report. Maria?
Yes. Basically everything is on the HCV report, but I do want to share with the commissioners, November the 30th is the last day to accept applications for Villa Del Monte and for Selena's Gateway. But if the commissioners have any questions regarding the board report, just let me know.
Thank you for that notice. That concludes the information reports. And we'll now move to the commissioner comments. I'll just go in the order here of the agenda, starting with Commissioner Goodwin.
I just wanted to thank everyone for their input and the information that was provided, and hope everybody has a wonderful Christmas. I know we're going to see each other again in a few minutes, but I just wanted to remember to say that.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Yeah, Commissioner Gama.
I would just like to congratulate the recipient of the 15-year award. It shows a lot for HACM to have long-term employees. And then thank you to all the staff for all the hard work that you do. And then happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Ballesteros.
I want to congratulate Irene Banuelos for her 15 years of service. We appreciate your work and your dedication to this community. And I want to thank all the staff, Tori and Gabriela, for all the information provided on the agenda, including Maria and Jose. I believe it was Stephanie, and then I forgot the other person, but thank you all for all the information. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Healy.
I would echo the comments and definitely want to congratulate Irene for her 15 years of dutiful service to the community and to the Housing Authority. And just, I guess, congratulate the board on what I thought was a very fruitful and positive discussion surrounding project-based vouchers. And thank you, Tori, for all of the background work. Thank you to Gabby and Carolina and Maria and all the staff for all their continued hard work.
Thanks very much, Commissioner Healy. Commissioner Vice Chair Booter.
Yeah, I wanted to thank the staff too. You know, I think we've been leasing up a building. We've been fixing buildings that have issues. We've been implementing new processes for the voucher program. So I think people have been busy. I think the voucher program folks have been working on weekends. So all that is very much appreciated. And then I also wanted to thank Tori. You know, Tori was supposed to be a very, in the interim role. And I think this is going to be his last full HACM meeting as our interim. But I think we've actually made a remarkable amount of progress in those 11 months. And it's been great to see. It's been great to work with you, Tori. And you haven't just kind of kept a seat warm. You've actually like prodded us to move forward, which I think has been really fantastic. And obviously helped us to set us up with our new executive director. So I just really appreciate all the help over the past year.
Thank you.
Yeah, great comments, everybody. I totally agree. And I don't need to belabor comments that were already shared. I just want to express my deep gratitude for staff doing such an incredible job to allow us as the policy people who don't do the everyday work that keeps the lights on and keeps people housed to provide input and help shape the direction that we're headed as an organization. And we can't have that robust discussion you heard Commissioner Healy talk about unless you all do a ton of work to prepare us for it. And so that we could have that discussion this evening, I just want to share my thanks, because I know it's not the only thing you've got on your plates. And especially as we enter the holiday season and people are working a little bit less because they're taking vacation, which they're entitled to, and I encourage people to take, or if they catch a winter bug or whatever the case may be. I just know that this can be a really busy and hectic time of year, and it seems as though the staff have not slowed down even one step. So thank you very much for facilitating the good work that we can do here at the board, because it creates a feedback loop where we can help you do good work that ultimately benefits the people of our community, as another commissioner said. So with that, there is no other business agendized in this meeting, and so it is therefore adjourned.
I think we'll dispense with the pledge. Tori, I believe that takes us to the roll call.
Commissioner Director Healy.
Present.
Director Goodwin.
Present. Sorry.
Director Ballesteros.
Present.
Director Booter.
Present.
Director Gama.
Present.
And Director Wizard.
Here.
I believe that gives us quorum. Are there any comments from the public?
No.
And no public comments. We'll move on to item 4, consent agenda. I would entertain a motion.
I move approval.
Second.
Then moved by Commissioner Booter, seconded by Commissioner Wizard, Director Booter and Director Wizard. Roll call, please.
Director Healy.
Aye.
Director Goodwin.
Yes.
Director Ballesteros.
Yes.
Director Booter.
Yes.
Director Gama.
Yes.
And Director Wizard.
Aye.
Consent agenda passes. If you're scrolling, I'm not sure who's scrolling, whether that's you, Tori, or Gabby. Could you take us back to the agenda? I don't seem to have the HDC agenda in front of me at the moment.
Yeah.
Please, so I can see what our next item of business is. Thank you. All right, that takes us to item 5, new business. Resolution MDC 217, authorization of housing management semi-annual write-offs, bad debt.
So like last month, this is the same process and the same results, but a different entity. This is for South County RAD. And next month, we'll be doing some more write-offs as well. So staff have gone through each one of these files, file by file. We made the adjustments due to the conversion to RAD, and then we did the write-offs for bad debt after that. And it results in a 4-year total of just over $8,000.
Questions or comments from the commissioner, directors, or the public? Fairly straightforward. I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I second that.
It's been a motion by Director Ballesteros, seconded by Director Buder to approve MDC 217. Roll call, please.
Director Healy,
Aye.
Director Goodwin,
Yes.
Director Ballesteros,
Yes.
Director Buder,
Yes.
Director Gama,
Yes.
and Director Wizard.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to item 5B, resolution MDC 218. Approve the operating budget for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022 and ending June 1st, 2023.
So we've discussed this budget in the Finance Committee. It is not consolidated. It's not presented as a consolidated budget, but from a consolidated level, it does have positive cash flow with total revenues of 4.5 and total expenditures of 3.2. It was largely based on prior year operations, as well as expected drawdown of developer fee in the coming year. And happy to answer questions. And Kim is also available if there are more detailed questions.
I had
Any
a
of the
quick
directors
question.
have, go ahead, Hans.
Thanks. On the revenue side, is that basically like our last installment of developer fees from Parkside that I think it was like 1.5 million or something? Is that kind of it in the pipeline at this point, or is there anything in the future that we have coming in past what's in this budget?
I believe Parkside would go on for a little bit, that it wasn't paid out in the first, all paid out in the first year. Is that correct, Kim?
That's correct. That's correct. It's deferred out a bit. And we have others. I know there's some deferred on, there's $1 million and I want to say 1.2 on Castroville too. Kim and I still need to go through the worksheet. So there's a few other, there's at least those 2 that have deferred developer fee.
Yes.
Would it be fair to say you guys think we can kind of keep the lights on at HDC based on those developer fees for a couple of years? Like, what's our runway?
Yes. And
Yes.
and we're expecting to do more development. So yes.
That part I like. Okay,
Yes.
good.
I think the total deferred is around 4 million.
Okay, great.
Other
We're not
questions?
going anywhere. Don't turn off the lights.
No lights. Lights are not getting turned off. Other questions about the lights and or the operating budget?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. I just wanted to inquire about a couple of line items that stuck out at me. My intent is not to grill anybody, but just sort of get a better handle on those various topics. I'm looking at the proposed 22-23 budget compared to actuals from 21-22 and wondering if there was a sentence or two someone could share about the increased anticipated costs with looks like advertising and PR. Like what are we going to spend that money on if there's already a plan?
Carolina, you were telling me the 75,000 is for a certain project.
But that's coming out of our Parkside. So that wouldn't be part of HDC's.
I would have to look, I would have to double check my notes. And I don't have them with me right now, but I can find out for you.
Yeah, and anything
Budget 30, isn't it 30, Kim?
that's what it looks like.
30, right?
Yeah, 30.
Yeah, and last year it looked like it was around 5 maybe. So I just didn't know if there was a new program or initiative we were going to pursue that would consume that difference.
We had, I think, well, most of that would just be if there were any, depending on what, we've been talking with the city of Salinas on a couple of potential development opportunities. And so if they put out any RFPs or we have to assemble any, packages or presentations, I look to our marketing firm for some assistance on that. So it may not be as high as 30. I don't expect it to be, but kind of just wanted to have a cushion.
Okay, no worries. I see the top of page 3 for general liability insurance. Is that just a premium increase, or have we changed what we're doing?
No, that was simply all of our insurance lines for all the properties, and ours included went up.
Okay.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, it's just the cost of doing business. I didn't know if there was any special context you could share, but that's totally sufficient.
Well, due to I don't know if there's an actual claim, but based on the changes, I guess, I don't remember the specific language that our carrier used, but yeah, ours went up a bit.
For state minimum taxes, for the state minimum tax, is that just for properties that are not totally eligible for the public welfare exemption?
Yes.
Okay. There might have been 1 or 2 other ones that were slight adjustments, but there's no. I don't know for whom this question is most appropriate. If we decide to pursue a broker, as Commissioner Booter mentioned, or excuse me, Director Booter mentioned in the last meeting, would that come out of this budget, or would that come out of the Parkside budget directly?
No, that'd come out of HDC, this budget.
Okay, and there's no
so it hasn't
concern.
been.
I was just going to ask if there was any concern about where that might fit in, and if that would fit in. It seems as though we have plenty of delta between income and expenditures. I just was curious to know if that was, looking at this in greater detail now, if you think it's, no big deal, and if that's the way we go, so be it, or if, that might be a burden.
No, I don't see it being, I'd probably assign it to that public relations line that we were talking about earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, all good. Okay, and then, I see professional contracts went down by about 30,000. Do you know what that's related to?
Previous leadership contracts that were engaged.
Oh, okay. I see professional fees went up about 30,000. Did we just exchange one for the other? That's further up on page 2.
Kim, do you have? I don't have my detail on it.
Professional fees is for IT.
Oh, okay. But just one line above that for general legal, I see it's going to drop significantly. Is there any insight into the cause for that?
Previously, we had some litigation outstanding and everything is almost wrapped up. So we expect our costs to drop this year.
Okay, It's a perfectly fine answer. I appreciate it. Thanks for letting me poke at the budget, and I appreciate your help.
Are there any other questions relative to the budget?
I'm just gonna make the same comment I made in the committee meeting, which is that, so my understanding is that this is like essentially a consolidated budget except for Casanova and the single family homes. And the only thing I was gonna say was from like a management and board perspective, my understanding is that like if we own Tynan outright, or if we own a property outright that is still rolling up into this roll up, let me know if that's wrong. But you know, that just basically like it would be helpful to have just a like HDC core operations, you know, budget. Maybe that's what I'm looking at, but it sounded like there were some other things baked into it. Just so that we could, from like a management perspective, understand like kind of what the burn rate is and what the core operations look like. So
The first budget is the core operations. Those are all the development projects, anything that's being developed at the time. And then the other two are actual properties that HDC owns, and it will roll up into that.
okay, so maybe I got confused then. Why would we be charging a broker fee to our, you know, development entity as opposed to the property level?
A broker fee?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you're talking
That
about.
one is,
For the tenant commercial.
and it actually might have to flow to HACM because HACM is the one who holds the master lease. HDC only
That's
leases other
yeah,
space.
it's the way that structure. I know.
So that's
Okay.
actually, it would be HACM would need to pay the fee.
So this, to be clear, basically the first P&L here, this is like core HDC operations without any properties blended into it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Other questions for the budget? Commissioner Gama, Commissioner Goodwin, or excuse me, Director Gama, Director Goodwin, Director Ballesteros?
I have none.
None.
If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion.
I move approval of the budget.
And I'll second.
It's been moved by Director Booter and seconded by Director Ballesteros to approve resolution MDC 218. Roll call, please.
Director Healy,
Aye.
Director Goodwin,
Yes.
Director Ballesteros,
Yes.
Director Booter,
Yes.
Director Gama.
Yes.
And Director Wizard.
Motion passes unanimously. Information item, I believe we already covered it in relative detail, but Carolina and or Tori, do we need additional information relative to development and property management reports?
No, unless anybody has anything to ask on it. I think we're good.
Are there any questions or follow-up or anything that occurred to any of the directors post our last discussion about the development and or property management reports that they'd like to ask now? Hearing none. I see item 7 as a closed session, and I'm wondering if it would be prudent to table the HDC meeting to the call of the chair so as to convene the TVI meeting and get that out of the way before we convene closed session. Carolina, Tori, any comments or suggestions?
Sure. The closed session, I do not anticipate being long.
Should we just proceed and convene the closed session now and then just finish with time in village?
Either way is fine.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that then if it's going to be brief. So the board will now convene closed session under anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D to one case, significant exposure to litigation. And Gabby, will you help us manage the Zoom meeting appropriate for the closed session?
Yes.
And anyway, and that, you know, we can continue to move forward with our new director when she comes in next month. That's it.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Director Goodwin. Director Gama.
I'm just gonna echo what all my fellow directors have said, and happy holidays.
Thank you, Director Gama. Director Booter.
No additional comments beyond what I had in the HACM meeting. Thanks everyone for making time tonight on the staff side.
Thank you, Director Booter. Director Ballesteros.
Thank you to all the staff, Carolina, Gabriela, and Tori for enduring with us. And I appreciate all the information provided to make this meeting take place. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Ballesteros. Thank you to Tori. Thank you, Carolina. Thank you all the staff for all your hard work. And thank you to the directors for moving through this meeting somewhat expeditiously. Carolina, Tori, if there's anything that I can do further to support HDC in this new role as chair, please don't hesitate to draw me in on however I can be helpful. With that, I will, what's that?
I said, there's one more meeting, don't go.
Oh, no, we're going to do TVI next, but we're going to first adjourn the HDC meeting. So at 6:44, HDC meeting is now adjourned. Meeting of the Tynan Village, Inc. at 6:45 p.m. We'll dispense with the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call, please.
Director Healy,
Yes.
Director Goodwin, Director Goodwin,
Present.
Director Ballesteros,
Present.
Director Booter,
Present.
Director Gama,
Present.
Director Wizard.
Here.
All commissioners present and accounted for. Comments from the public. Item 3. I'm going to hazard a guess that there's neither public nor comments from the public. And so that will take us to item number 4, new business, TVI financials. Tori, Carolina, who was going to lead us in this discussion?
Carolina, do you want to take it away? There's not
Well,
much to say.
last month we had our annual Tynan Village Inc. meeting, but Kim was unable to get our financials in for the meeting. So it's part of the requirement that we present financials at least once a year. And so I wanted to make sure that we got this in before the end of the year. So that's all this is. It's just follow up to last month's meeting. I don't know if Kim, you want to add anything to it? I mean, it's very basic. There's not much to it.
There was there was no income or expenses during the year.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Carolina. No income nor expenses relative to the financials for Tynan Village Inc. That simplifies the review. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, I guess how does that, can you guys just explain that one to me?
TVI is the nonprofit that was formed as part of the ownership structure for Tynan Village Affordable Housing LP, for the limited partnership that owns Tynan Village.
Got it.
And
So
so
it's not the
it's the
ownership entity. It's like a
it's
nonprofit.
it's the only other nonprofit that we have. And so as part of the nonprofit requirement, we have to have at least one meeting. That's why this only happens, every October. We forgot to do the financial piece. And I know that if we don't do it, we wouldn't be in compliance with the nonprofit requirements. So I wanted to make sure we got it in as soon as we could after the October meeting. So this clears us of that until next October when we have to do it again.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Carolina, as a matter of protocol, this item in my agenda is not listed as an action item. Is there an action that needs to be taken by the board, or is simply presented as information?
Just presented. Because the action item was the election of officers, which we did last week.
Okay, so this is presented as information, not
Yes.
approved or otherwise
Yes.
ratified. Very good. Okay. That takes us to item number 5, director comments. What I'll do is just at this point throw it open to any directors who might have comments different than they had for HDC and or HACM.
Just want to say thank you to Carolina and Kim for this information. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Ballesteros. Any other directors have any comments? Hearing none, I would agree. Thank you, Carolina. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Tori. Thank you to all the directors for sticking around for this meeting. And that will take us to adjournment at 6:49 p.m. for Time and Village Inc.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you.